published the review of the Protection of Employers Insolvency Act as a matter of urgency. Deputy, you have 4 minutes.
And again, I just want to thank you for allowing me to raise this issue here on the floor of the Dáil. It's an issue that's not new. It's an issue that has been going on for 2 years. It involves 12 families down in the town that I'm privileged and honoured to serve, the town of Clonakilty. And 2 years ago, Hood Textiles, a factory in the town of Clonakilty, closed without any notice, and these 12 workers and their families were literally, the day turned up for work one day and found the doors locked. And from that day to this, for the past 2 years, they have been trying to get what has been owed to them. And the unfortunate, to add further injury to the injustice that has been done to these 12 workers, is that the company is in receivership but has not been liquidated. And if the company had been liquidated, these workers would enjoy the same rights that any other worker who's been unfortunate enough to lose their job. So these 12 families have not just had the terrible trauma of having their livelihoods terminated without any notice and just by a lock being placed across the door, but as I've said, to add further injury to that, the 12 families feel a double grievance because they're owed money by the employer for their holiday pay and for their different terms and conditions that all workers enjoy. And we had a recent very high-profile case in this city of Dublin where there was 500 workers in Cleary's. Well, I would argue that the 12 workers in Clonakilty are equally and every bit as valuable to the community of Clonakilty, and their families are equally impacted. Now, there was no cameras and there was no headlines for these 12 families to assist them, and there wasn't any promises of any government action. But I have been doing my duty as a public representative over the 2 years and have met with them numerous times. They're not, they don't have the financial resources to take the legal steps. They have engaged at some level legally, but they don't have the resources between them to do what it takes to take a case like this to the High Court to get justice. So I have been raising it with the Minister and with the Department for 2 years by way of PQ and by way of correspondence, and I've been getting the same answer for 2 years. And that is that a review is taking place, and we expect a review to end shortly. The families are getting tired and fed up. They've lost their livelihoods, and that is difficult for them to take. But now they've further lost as well. They have a grievance, and that the government and the state are turning their back on them as well. And they are in a position now, and they have said to me they regret now that they didn't do what lots of other workers did instead, just sit in and command the attention of the state and the organs of the state and indeed the media at the time. But they went very gracefully about their taking the hit very gracefully and did what they could do themselves. And I've done my bit for them, but I really am reaching, an end point now, and I would plead with the Department that we owe it to these 12 families. And indeed, there's numerous others. This isn't just about the 12 families in Clonakilty. There are numerous other families, the length and breadth of this country, that have had the same dreadful to lose their job, but to have the grievance added to it. So I would ask and look forward to the Minister outlining if there are any plans to complete that review, and that we could finally get justice for these 12 families and all the other families in the country as well. So thank you, Cathaoirleach, again for the opportunity to raise it here.
Thank you, Deputy. Minister, your response.
Deputy Daly, thank you for raising the issue in relation to the review of the insolvency. And I've circulated a response, but I would prefer to have a conversation with you rather than circulating a scripted response in relation to this. Because certainly, as a trade unionist and a member of a trade union for many years, I very much can share and understand your frustration, not only your frustration but the family's frustration of not being able to get the repayment that I believe, as you believe, that are entitled to. In the response, it outlines the legislation in relation to what we're working on. I don't propose to read through that for you because I feel it might be a little bit insulting, because you've been arguing this point very strongly for the last 2 years, and there's a level of frustration. I can reassure you that my department has been reviewing the situation. The department has been consulting with a range of interest parties, including the Office of the Director of Corporate Enforcement, Department of Jobs, Enterprise and Innovation, and the Revenue Commissioners to establish what, if anything, can be done to progress payments to individuals in this situation. To date, officials from the department has had one formal meeting with various parties mentioned above in connection with the issue, and continue to engage with relevant parties to try and progress the matter. Given the very difficult legal issues that needs to be addressed, I'm not in a position to indicate when this review will be completed. But Deputy Daly, I would say to you is I'll take this up, and I think you've articulated it very clearly, your concern for the particular 12 families, and indeed many other families. And I'll be quite happy to meet with you, Deputy Daly, to see can we progress this even further. I know for this government the finishing line is early next year, and I believe that you want and you're anxious that we'd actually be able to resolve it for these families and many other families. So I'm happy to sit down with you and with my officials and just give you a very up-to-date report where we can, and see in some way can we progress, which is a very, very important issue with these particular 12 families. Deputy, I wasn't aware that you were going to raise the individual case. If it was, I would have come much better prepared to respond to those people that are in your consistency and many more that are caught in that. It is a very complicated situation in relation to legislation, because there's many acts which it has just been circulated to you. It covers. So, but I do believe, Deputy Daly, you're correct in raising the issue today, and let's see can we work together over the next 5 months to bring this to a speedy resolution. And I thank you again for raising what I believe is a very important issue. And then sometimes, members of the public in the different areas believes that those who shout loudest gets most. Well, we have to ensure that everybody is treated equally, whether there's television cameras shown on the case or not. These 12 families are as important as the families that are being affected by what happened in relation to Clearys, and I'm quite happy, Deputy Daly, in some way can we work out a resolution to speed up the case, and thank you again for raising it this afternoon in the House.
Thank you, Minister. Deputy Daly.
Thank you, Cathaoirleach. And look, from the outset there is absolutely no, while I'm very disappointed with the response, and I'll be honest, Minister, because that's the same response that I have been getting, and the Department has all the details of the case that I've been raising. It's exactly the same response that I've been getting for 2 years. So, and if I'm frustrated, you can imagine how frustrated the 12 families. But notwithstanding that, I also very much appreciate your sincerity, and I know you're very, very genuine in your response, and I do appreciate that, and that does give me a lot of comfort, because ultimately I appreciate, look, there's difficulties trying to move this on, and there are a lot of different acts, but as one of the family members said to me, this review is going on, there's nothing there for us. How long does it take to review nothing, or to look at nothing twice? And you can see where they're coming from. But look, I'll take you up on your offer, Minister. I will meet with you and your officials in the coming weeks, and we'll try and progress this, as I said, not just for the 12 families in Clonakilty, who are obviously my paramount concern, but indeed, and I think you grasp that. That's what I appreciate most. You absolutely grasp the issues here. There is an equality issue. Every citizen is entitled to this equal dignity, and for the state to shine the same light on them, and that's what's at issue here, above and beyond everything else. And as I said, the trauma of losing your livelihood is so severe and so difficult, but then to feel that you're treated unequally in the eyes of the state and not afforded the same when the media takes such an interest in the conditions of others who are in the same position. So again, look, thank you, Minister, for your offer, which I will take you up, and thank you, Cathaoirleach, for allowing me to raise it here on the floor of the Dáil. And I look forward to making progress with the Minister and his officials in the Department.
Thank you, Deputy.
Deputy, I will be in touch in the coming weeks to organise that, and we will organise it. You can actually brief your